Hello students, welcome and I thank you for viewing and listening my videos and I think that they are helping you in your studies. Today let me talk about the respiration, the respiratory system in plants as well as in animals and in humans particularly. So, in plants and in animals or in humans, the cellular respiration is almost same. So, what is the cellular respiration? It is the release of energy from glucose for the continuation of life processes in the cells. The equation will be like C6H12O6, that is glucose plus O2. 6O2 will give 6CO2 plus 6H2O plus 38 ATP. So this is the aerobic respiration which is happening in presence of oxygen. So in aerobic respiration 38 ATP is being released, which is huge quantity of energy, and in humans, since we are all warm blooded, great amount of energy is required for the availability of energy in sufficient quantity. So for this, oxygen has to be available in all the cells and tissues for aerobic respiration. And to make this oxygen available, there has to be some specific organs in the system which are called the respiratory organs, because the gaseous exchange has to take place and the surface area has to be sufficiently available so that the oxygen is diffused in the blood and can be available to all the cells and tissues sufficiently and efficiently. So for this, a respiratory system has to be there. In humans particularly, so in cellular respiration, aerobic and anaerobic types are there. Aerobic means in presence of oxygen, anaerobic means in absence of oxygen or in lack of oxygen. So aerobic respiration takes place in two steps. First is glycolysis, which takes place in the cytoplasm, where glucose is broken down into pyruvate. The 6 carbon molecule glucose is broken down into the 3 carbon molecule in the first step, and this 3 carbon molecule is called pyruvate, and this process takes place in the cytoplasm of the cell, and this is known as glycolysis. And this pyruvate is the intermediate stage of many metabolic processes in our body, and this pyruvate is now broken down into carbon dioxide, water and 38 ATP, which is the second phase of cellular respiration. So the first step, that is glycolysis, is same in aerobic as well as anaerobic respiration. But in anaerobic respiration, the second phase, that is in mitochondria, the pyruvate is broken down in presence of oxygen and in absence of oxygen. In presence of oxygen, in aerobic respiration, 38 ATP is released, but in anaerobic respiration, in absence of oxygen, in plants, ethanol will be released, and in animals or in humans, lactic acid will be released. So this is the only difference in anaerobic respiration. So cellular respiration is taking place in two phases. One is glycolysis and second is the breakdown of pyruvate in the mitochondria. First step is taking place in cytoplasm and the second step is taking place in the mitochondria, which is known as the powerhouse of the cell. So, students, this is about cellular respiration, which is same in plants as well as in animals or in humans. But since a greater quantity of oxygen is required in humans, as we are warm-blooded, our body temperature does not change with that of the environment. So we need a huge amount of energy, and so there is a particular system which is called the respiratory system, and there are specific organs to make this happen, to make oxygen available in sufficient quantity in the cells by the diffusion of oxygen in the blood, which is taking place in the lungs, in the alveoli of the lungs. So there has to be a greater surface area for this diffusion of oxygen so that it is sufficiently and efficiently available to all cells and tissues. So for this to happen, there are two steps: inhalation and exhalation. So we inhale air which is rich in oxygen, and in this inhalation, what is happening? We are having the nasal cavity, the noses, the nasal cavity, then the trachea, the windpipe, which is also having half-shaped rings, cartilage rings, so that it does not collapse when it is empty. So this trachea is carrying the air rich in oxygen to the lungs, which are in a pair, and they are elastic spongy organs full of air sacs and capillaries. So the lungs, there are two lungs, the right and the left, and the left lung is slightly smaller to accommodate the heart, and they are resting on the diaphragm, which is a muscular tissue, and this diaphragm is basically cone shaped, arc shaped, but when we are inhaling, this becomes straight or becomes flat, this diaphragm, and with the help of the contraction of the external intercostal muscles of the ribs, the chest cavity, the size of the chest cavity increases, so the volume inside also increases. So if the volume increases, the pressure goes down. So the air rich in oxygen is taken in very easily. So this is inhalation. And in exhalation, the opposite takes place. The diaphragm, which has become straight or flattened, is again going back to its original position, that is dome shaped or arc shaped. And the chest cavity, the size of the chest cavity decreases. So the volume inside decreases, so the pressure increases, and the external intercostal muscle will now relax, and the internal intercostal muscle will now contract. So the volume has gone down and the pressure has increased, so it will easily drive the air away, drive the air out, which is rich in CO2. So that is exhalation. So this is the process of breathing, students. So I have talked about the cellular respiration as well as the breathing process. So this completes the respiratory system. I end my topic here and will come back with some other topic in my next videos. Till then, goodbye and thank you very much.